Faces.
You sick for this one. Sick for this one.
Dog amongst the war-torn liquor store, gun store, bodega like a general store where you could get you some raw or whatever you want, it's all yours. Fiends nodding off on the milk crates, DTs hiding out trying to build case. Repeat offenders selling cause their bill's late and they don't see another way, now that's an ill fate. Brother trying to make sure his appeal straight. Mother came back from Kuwait with a steel plate. Shit is real, even Steve Jobs died. These kids don't wanna idolize guys like Bill Gates. It's just the way of the world. It's just the way of the world. It's just the way of the world now. It's just the way of the world. Pulling up to Zuccotti in your Bugatti. You probably just don't get it, you bourgeoisie. You probably wasn't expecting this new posse. Trying to make a change, you know who's on me. Huh? You know who's on me. You know who's on me. You know who's on me. Move calmly. For real, they pop pills and shoutin' YOLO now. On some don't look back shit and don't look down. Everybody wanna have a colder style. Rather be a cola pal than a Goma pal. That's that gangster mentality. People got it all crooked. Wanna be a real crime family. Ain't up on them Bin Ladens in the bushes, it's a damn shame. You still quoting Scarface. Clicheer than the car chase. And if you saying that it's art for art's sake, then I'm just saying no get caught counting cars, Ace. It's just the way of the world. It's just the way of the world. It's just the way of the world now. It's just the way of the world. Pulling up in your Lex in front of the jet. Say me when even from there, something suspect. Show some respect, at least show some sense. You trying to connect, that's a stretch. You trying to contest. You want who's on me, huh? You want who's on me. You want who's on me. Move calmly. Ayo, EMP's the army. Better yet, the National Guard. Better yet, international's ours. After the party is the anarchy. That ain't a plan hardly. Man, don't even start me. Know what I don't like? I won't lie. It's exploitation, trying to play both sides. Disenfranchise youth on the block. Think a revolution starts just by shooting the cop. You wanna ruin two families? That's what that is. So focus on the bullet, we forgot about the ballot. And when your hands are ready bloody, what's a little more? In the struggle, hope there's not another civil war. It's just the way of the world. It's just the way of the world. It's just the way of the world now. It's just the way of the world. Pulling up to Zuccotti in your Bugatti. You probably just don't get it, you bourgeoisie. You probably wasn't expecting this new posse. Trying to make a change, you know who's on me. Huh? You know who's on me. You know who's on me. You know who's on me. Move calmly.
Manny Faces.
You sick for this one. Sick for this one. Sick for this one.
The thing about hip hop today is it's smart. It's insightful. The way that they can communicate a complex message in a very short space is remarkable. And a lot of these kids, they're not going to be reading the New York Times. That's not how they're getting their information.
My hip-hop will rock and shock the nation. Hip-hop culture is more than music.
Peace to you, and speak the truth. Show 'em what peace can do when there reach for you.
My hip-hop will rock and shock the nation. Rap is something you do, hip-hop is something you live.
So hip-hop didn't invent anything. But hip hop reinvented everything.
This is Baby Girl Faces. And this episode is brought to you by
Look at that. Automatic with no static. It's the man, Manny Faces. Peace and love and all that good stuff. This is Hip Hop Can Save America, y'all. And we are rocking with you, rocking with you, rocking with you. Remember David Levy? Rocking you, rocking you, rocking you. Yeah, man. So listen, we've got a lot of new stuff, a little bit of a late start, some technical difficulties. As you know, if you're a regular watcher, we are adding new things and we're doing new intros and we've got all kind of stuff going on. Shouts to Silent Night. Our homie Silent Night, whose joint was playing there on the beginning of the show tonight. It's called Ogre. It's off of his latest album, one of his latest releases. I think he released something else since then, but it's called Restoration Volume 3. You know, Silent Night's been on the show. He was just a guest co-host last week, so you were there. If you were there, you saw him do that. Yeah, man. So yeah, shouts to Andrew Wang in the building. He is commenting and telling me that the definition is crazy. Look at this high def. Look at, you can see my pimples. I have pimples. I'm like 80 years old. I still got pimples. Doesn't make sense. And look, I'm able to call your chat up onto the screen. Look, see that? See, I fixed that. I told y'all last week I'll get it rocking by this week. And I did indeed get it rocking. So, that being said, if you're just watching and wondering why I seem so chaotic, again, we're switching some things up, but we've been doing this for quite some time. This isn't new. This is Hip Hop Can Save America, where we explore ways that hip hop music and culture can help uplift humanity and improve society in ways that I don't know if anything else can. So very unique, compelling ways that only hip hop music and culture and those from within it or that practice it with authenticity and good intent can make the world a better place. So we've been doing this for quite some time. We are a podcast as well. So very often we interview folks on this show. You'll hear me talk about some things. We share some news. We share some events that are really, I don't know, the kind of events you might not hear about from other media sources that are, we like to say, dope and interdisciplinary. Right. So sometimes we'll talk about hip hop conferences that happen at academic universities. We'll talk about, you know, kind of Nas, just one of the ones we did. Nas was at the Kennedy Center, like with an orchestra, like, you know, just kind of the interdisciplinary things that are happening within hip hop that we like to really speak about and focus on here. Today's loose topic. This is something I'm also experimenting with. By the way, my name is Manny Faces.
Manny Faces.
You sick for this one.
And I'm your host and conductor, as my good friend Jason Move would always say, the conductor of the Underground Railroad. Well, I'm the conductor of Hip Hop Can Save America. Please give a thumbs up, like, and share this stream. We'll be discussing a few things. We've got some hip hop news that isn't about dumb Issh. We always go through those things. We have a great guest tonight who's going to come in and kind of pop in with us and guest co-host that segment. And then, of course, I want to remind people that we also have so audio podcast, and we also have a newsletter, and the newsletter is really dope. It's hand curated. Yes, Andrew, I'm getting to it. No doubt, 100%. We have some sad news to report. We'll get right onto it. That being said, why don't I the loose topic idea. The hip hop is for the children, right? If you're watching live and you hear me say hip hop is for the children, I won't tell you what I think about that statement. Just put in the chat what you think that means to you. And we'll talk about it a little bit more because, you know, I get ranty. But before I do all that, let's get into the news. Andrew Rang is right. We have a couple of things to report, and I'm gonna try to bring in a guest, and hopefully this works like it should. I'm gonna see what happens. Our guest for the evening, Dr. Raphael Travis, is in the building.
Peace. What up, Manny?
What up, sir?
Glad to see you. Glad to be here. You always got the latest and greatest of hip hop news for us to reflect on, chew on, and
indeed
ponder about. So glad to be here, man.
I appreciate it. Now you're really actually our guest for the night, and we'll talk a little bit more about, you know, specifically why I asked you to come on, and We just did a thing together, a few weeks back. You just did a whole wonderful summer camp initiative that has to do with STEM and the arts and hip hop, of course. And you've been on the show before, so people might know you from, your book, The Healing Power of Hip Hop, and the conversations we had before. So just to let people know who don't know you, you're not some rando, some dude. And I was like, I need a doctor. And he was like, I'm a doctor. I'm like, all right, come on, let's go. So we brought you on, but since we were having you on, I said, why don't you share the space with me, and we'll do this thing that we like to call hip hop news that isn't about dumb shit. Boom. There you go. Now, you can't quite see this, and I got to adjust you here. I'm literally making like live adjustments at the same time, like we're doing the show, because I'm still getting the layouts right. But you can't see this, but the people can. You're over there. No, wait. You're over there, and I'm over here, and it's a side view. You can actually see my shirt now. It's pretty dope. I have a side view. And in the middle, there's this big screen, and it's really the screen on my computer down here, but you can see it up here. So everyone can see us and the news that we're talking about. It's really dope.
Nice.
Yeah, you sick for this one. So that being said, just to one time reiterate that we do have this wonderful thing called the Hip Hop Could Save America newsletter, and that is free subscription. You can subscribe to this newsletter. I just put it in the chat. I think I did. Oh no. Dang it. Hey, I had a button that would type it out for me automatically. What happened? Everything works and then it doesn't work. Anyway, it's at I'll put it in manual. We got time. mannyfaces.substack.com. One day I'll have a co-producer and they'll be doing this for me. But I put it in the chat, y'all. It's a free newsletter, and what we do is we curate, my team curates all the fascinating, innovative, and inspiring, and sometimes surprising. Because I had to type it, Andrew. That's why you could see it. I had to do it manually, the old-fashioned way. But we actually put together a collection of hip-hop news that isn't about dumb-ish, and I'm just clicking onto it, and people can see. I'll usually have a little bit of a thing there. And here's some stories that were in the last edition. Again, these are stories you might not find in your hip-hop media. Some of them you will. But we pull the good ones out because we like to kind of filter through the ratchetness. You know what I mean? Like, plenty of places to get all that entertainment news and all that stuff. Nothing wrong with it. If that's your thing, go for it. But like last time we talked about, and then we had a pop-up last week where we actually did a show just talking about items in the news, like NASA transmitted a hip-hop song into space for the first time. And it happened to be Missy Elliott's I Can't Stand the Rain. So that's now going to, I think, a planet, Venus. It's being aimed at Venus. NASA had previously shot the Beatles' Across the Universe song into, like, to the sun. And so this is a thing they do. But the second song, and the first time for, like, hip-hop heads, it was Missy Elliott's. I thought that was a pretty cool story, and you might not have heard about that. So that's the kind of stuff we do there. So that's what I'm saying. Sign up for the newsletter there. It's in the chat. It's at mannyfaces.substack.com. It's free. But you can put a couple dollars in if you feel like you value this work. You saw some of the people that at the end of the intro who do support on Patreon. That's another option for you. And you could go to patreon.com/mannyfaces. I'll type in the chat. I had a button. You did it for me automatically, but that button broke since the last time we did the show. Anyway, patreon.com/mannyfaces. And there you have some perks, and, you can get like discounts on we have shirts and stuff. You get discounts on there. But basically, it's to support this work. As I like to tell people, ballet doesn't exist because people go to ballet shows. The ballet exists because people find that ballet is an important cultural thing that they should support with their philanthropy or their donations. And we don't get that kind of love for the stuff that we do here from, most people. So we have to do it. So I'm giving you a way to, help do it. Anyway, that all being said, now that we've done the housekeeping, how you doing, Rap? We good? You still hear me?
I'm good, man. Real glad to be here.
I just had to go through the opening, the opening salvo.
No, it's important, man, that this idea that, we need to crowdsource support for the culture. It's really important.
Yeah, it's hard. It's a hard thing to do. Nobody likes to ask, for money, for $5. You're a support. I thank you. I give people their flowers. I put their names up. I'll link to your stuff. you'll get discounts. But at the same time, it's like, I like to think of it as, and we'll get into the news in a sec. Now we just tangented it for a second, but it's like we grown-ups now. Like, I donate to public radio. You know what I mean? Like, you're in WNYC, used to be in New York, or now down here WABE in Atlanta. Like, sometimes you give like, $20 a year or something like that because you want to be a sustaining member. We have to. The public media is not the corporate controlled media. It's not the cable news media. Like, it's a little bit more of we're cutting out the BS and we're just giving you the news. And I appreciate that from my NPR affiliate. And that's some grown up stuff to do. Like, we got to donate to NPR affiliate, like, because we recognize that's one way to do it, where they don't have to clickbait you and they could just give you the news or give you some great stories. And especially here in Atlanta, there's a lot of Atlanta local stories. I like the radio station. I'm learning about all the things that are happening here. So I want to donate to that movement because I know that they don't get, matter of fact, they're always like being threatened to have their funding cut by a particular party in the government. You know what I mean? So we do have to like crowdsource when we can. And I don't like to do it because there's a lot of people that ask for money that aren't on the up and up, and they don't do anything with it. And I do all this with it. So at least I show you what we do.
Very visible, very prominent, and timely and current and all that good stuff, man.
I appreciate it. Less about me. Oh, wait, what happened now? Why are my buttons not working, bro? Oh, they are. Okay. Wrong button. That's it. I'll get used to it. All right, listen. Like I said, and Andrew Wang, thanks for bringing this up. I had it queued up, of course. 2 RIPs, of significance in the culture, on the music side of things. DJ Polo has passed away. Cool G Rap's DJ, you might know from the Cool G Rap and DJ Polo. They were basically from the days when rappers had a DJ attached to them. And this was significant because he was, Cool G Rap, pioneering MC. Certainly someone who made a lane that, influenced many others throughout the years. And DJ Polo helping him as a, DJ as a producer, just early hip hop, I guess, what do you call it? Royalty, if you would. He passed away at, I don't know if they said how old it was. This was, and I put this up when we first got it. Sometimes these stories go up and they don't really give a lot of details and they come back. But this was published Saturday, so rest in peace, DJ Polo. You must have been a Cool G Rap fan, being a New York guy.
Huge Cool G Rap fan. And I was just going to mention on that new Beat Miners album, he's got a track on there that's sick.
Yeah.
A big Cool G Rap fan. He's a pioneer. Think about all the people who talk about storytelling and just rich descriptiveness. Like, so many people followed that style.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, and I was a big fan of that. I had a lot, rocked all the early albums. I still have. I got I actually have on vinyl. It's all scratched to hell right now. But it's a demo. I got it's a demo and Poison on the back. So, just a classic joint. And so rest in peace to DJ Polo. We just found out before we went on air tonight. Again, this is real early. I only saw like 1 or 2 sources, but considering who it was, we're going to roll with it. I'm a real journalist, so I like to verify and fact check. But, all hip hop has it. Afro posted it. And a couple people who seem to have known that Chino XL has passed away. The great Chino XL reportedly passed away at 50. So another dope MC. I'd almost say more underground, never really achieved, superstardom. But back in those days, a lot of MCs were just, spitting. He was a New Jersey guy. And at one point, I don't know where, I think he branched out to the Midwest possibly after that. But Chino XL, man, did a bunch of joints. And then recently was on the new Rakim album.
Maybe that's the album I'm thinking of with Cool G Rap. Maybe it was Rakim. Or the Beat Miners, one of those two.
Well, shouts to the Beat Miners, of course, friends of the room, but also shouts to Rakim for dropping a new album first time in a bunch of years. Not enough Rakim, says the internet. Not enough Rakim. He's doing a lot of production and he appeared on a couple of joints, but people want a full Rakim joint. And
I felt the same way. I was like, I wanted more from him.
Yeah. Don't we all? Well, we got something, and that's better than nothing, I guess. But rest in peace. to Chino XL and DJ Polo. We may be missing, unfortunately, there's some news that folks, we're getting in the age now. We're losing a lot of folks that came up in the game. So, just wanted to shout that out while we get started. Andrew Wang's Chicago is possible. That might be where Chino XL ended up. And I'm going to put it on the screen just to make sure it works. Look at that. It pops up and everything. It needs to pop up above my name, but that's okay. Thank you, Andrew. Thanks for putting us on to that fact. Andrew Wang is a music educator up in Yonkers. He's going to be happy about these next two stories. And again, Andrew Wang's a great contributor and just advocate and friend of the show. And I thank you very much, as with anybody else who is either watching live or on the replay. And again, a list of contributors in the beginning of the show, which I just recently finally updated. So if you haven't gotten your name in the intro and you're like, man, you've been saying for like a year. And I'm like, I know. And then as soon as I did that, I got more Patreon subscribers. So thank you very much. And now I got to update it again. More work for me, but it's all good. It's for the cause. Like I said, once again, if you're just tuning in, we are in the segment of the show that I like to call
Hip Hop News That Isn't About Dumb Shit.
And the guest co-host is Dr. Raphael Travis, who is works in the University, the School of Social Work, right?
Texas State University.
Texas State University, School of Social Work. You might know him for his astounding seminal text, "The Healing Power of Hip Hop," and we've interviewed him before, and he's just going to tell us a little bit more about what's happening on campus, what just happened on campus, that I think fits in the mold of the idea of tonight's, thought experiment of hip hop being for the children. Whether that's in what way is hip hop for the children, I guess. And we had a couple of responses. I see you, Bob Knutson. What up, sir? And I see you, Andrew. We'll come back to that as we get into that. But first, a couple more items of news. As you see on the screen, Wu-Tang Clan. I'm going to switch to another view. Check this out, y'all. Look at this. Come on. It's beautiful. We just switched, Raphael. We went over here, and now we're looking at the screen like this. Wu-Tang Clan's RZA's new album is a ballet score. I was just talking about ballet. Is a ballet score with the Colorado Symphony Orchestra. These words don't make sense together, do they? They really don't. Like, I know that we know that this can happen in hip hop, but it's just weird to hear. Wu-Tang, list the article. Wu-Tang Clan's RZA's new album is a ballet score with the Colorado Symphony Orchestra. So yeah, RZA's back with I'm going to read from it. It's from Pitchfork. RZA's back with a new album, a recording of the score to, quote, A Ballet Through Mud, which the Wu-Tang Clan alumnus wrote and composed for performance in 2023 at the Botcher Concert Hall in Denver, Colorado. Performed by the Colorado Symphony Orchestra and conducted by Christopher Dragon. The score includes spoken word and orchestration that RZA says was inspired by revisiting his childhood notebooks. The recorded version will stream via Platoon from August 30th. RZA said, "I've been composing my whole life, although I didn't know initially that's what I was doing. An inspiration for A Ballet Through Mud comes from my earliest creative output as a teenager, but its themes are universal: love, exploration, and adventure. I hope people use it to score their own lives, to transform a drive to the grocery store or sharing a meal with loved ones into something magical, to be inspired and let their imaginations take them into a different chamber, if only for a moment." I was tempted to do it in my bad RZA accent, but I won't. So there you go. How do you like that? There's a snippet. You want to hear a snippet? Why is it blocked? Wait a minute. It can't be blocked. Dang it. What's going on? Why can't I play it? That makes sense. All right. Well, I wasn't planning to play it, so whatever. Oh, wait. Oh, I can't play it. First, Andre with the flute. Okay, you get the gist. So there you go. RZA doing ballet orchestras and the whole nine. Your thoughts, Dr. Travis?
I think as people get older, there's a freedom, You know, I think they are comfortable not having to fit into a certain mold that maybe hip hop and youth sort of boxes people in.
Yeah.
And so they're free to explore the things that are interesting to them without like feeling that they're going to be judged or whatever. So, you know, everybody's unique and everybody taps into something that resonates uniquely with them. So,
Yeah.
And then if you have money and fame and a name, you really get to experiment.
It's true.
Right? And people seek you out as well.
Right.
You know?
People pay attention, right? If it was, you know,
Right.
if it was Manny Faces doing the flute, you know,
Yeah.
saying, I'm not doing this show anymore. I'm going to play the
Yeah.
harmonica. And y'all going to, like, no one's going to care. But yes, it does help to be known. Now, Riz has also done some movie scores in the past. So he scored movies. So he's gotten into that lane before. So it's not entirely outside the realm of, you know, what you might expect from him. I found him to be a wildly interesting dude. Wildly interesting dude. A couple more before we get into talking about what we want to talk about. Andrew Wang, you'll like this one. As you know, Dr. Travis, this little sporting event is happening over there in Paris. It's called the Olympics. I don't know if you've heard of it. It happens every now and then, and a bunch of people come, and this year they got on a boat, and then there was a horse running across the river. It was weird. Anyway, but of course, hip hop is featured prominently this year. In that, this is the one and perhaps only time that breaking will be in the Olympics. It's been entered as I think it was an exhibition perhaps in the past. It's been entered as I may get the terminology wrong, but a provisional sport. In that they're kind of just putting it in, but it's not like a permanent thing. Perhaps it will be one day. There's been a lot of talk about hip hop breaking in the Olympics, whether it's good, whether it's bad, whether it's authentic to the culture because it has to now sort of confine to rules and sort of judging that's different. Andrew will mention the other day something that I learned when I spoke to Mary Fogarty and Imani Kai Johnson, who wrote the Oxford Handbook of Hip Hop Dance, very well respected dancers, but also dance scholars. When we were at the European Hip Hop Studies Conference in Cork, Ireland, and there was a panel discussion on this. And one of the things I learned was that, for instance, the breakers don't hear the music. They don't know the music that they're going to break to ahead of time. So where you might think of, I have a routine planned for this particular music that I'm, working with, or maybe the way I dance has lyrics in it. And, we'll hear about this. And so that makes me, I can add a little bit of flair because I know what's going to be said, and I can incorporate what's being said in the song. We've seen breakers do this, throughout history. They don't actually have that opportunity. And so there's a discussion whether that's good or not, or whether, some breakers are like, that's cool. It's impromptu. It's cool. But then anyway, it's just one of the intricacies that taking it to this stage can do. And you talk about, commercializing it or taking it away from its authenticity. But then people say, on the other hand, that it's such a great look, it brings attention to the sport. I always say, and I said this last week, and I have a clip of this I'm going to post, but I know someone that I talk to a lot, and they don't really know much about hip hop, but I like to bring these ideas of, hip hop and education and the things we talk about here. And I remember she's older. She doesn't have any connection to hip hop culture. She doesn't know much of what's going on, but she did confide one time. She said, well, I used to like the breakdancing. That was cool. And I'm like, okay, that's cool. Like, okay, we have an in, we have a way to, to connect, but also used to, like, it was very like, they don't do that anymore. And of course she wouldn't know that they do it anymore. And I said, but I know that they do it. They've been doing it. Matter of fact, I'm wearing a shirt that I bought. This is the Panic. So it's the NBA logo, but it's a breaker, right? You see it? And I got this from when I was at the Freestyle Session World Breaking Championships in LA last year. And now people don't get to the world championships without doing regionals. And, this is happening all over the world, country, and obviously all over the world. I've seen breaking competitions in France. I've seen breaking competitions like in person. So we know that these things are happening. The hip hop community even sometimes forgets that element still exists, just like beatboxing and, other elements. So there is something to be said for it getting on the grand stage, the global stage, to let people know that, oh no, this is A, it's world-class athleticism. B, it's competitive sport. It's not something that just happens. I don't know what people think, you know what I mean? But most importantly, that it's not something that you used to had to like, that you can still like. So that being said, a real clip, this was on News Channel 4. There's a lot of stuff being written about breaking in the Olympics. I encourage people to read about it because there's some interesting things happening. There's interviews with the actual USA Olympic team. There's little clips of this. And one, because it does touch on sort of the origins. It's a New York story. It does feature Yonkers, so Andrew's going to be very happy. I just want to play this very brief story. This was from News Channel 4 in New York, and they broke down some of the, some of the things. Let's watch it together, shall we?
There is a new Olympic sport that's about to debut in Paris. Yeah, it's called breaking, although you might know it as breakdancing. It's an art form born in the Bronx nearly 50 years ago.
And News 4's Adam Cooperstein, a known breaker himself, has looked at breaking's improbable path to the Olympics and what could be the first breaking league in a local school district.
From the streets of the Bronx in the 70s to New York's hottest nightclubs in the 80s, breakdancing is now about to land on the Olympic stage in Paris.
It blows my mind.
We have London in the house. London Reyes was a member of the New York City Breakers, one of the original b-boy crews that made this bold prediction about breaking in 1984.
This is going to go into the Olympics in the future.
And here we are 40 years later talking about breaking going to the Olympics. How crazy is that?
And with the renewed interest in breaking, London is now leading a groundbreaking effort in Yonkers.
So I'm very fortunate that we're going to be working with the public school system, incorporating breaking as a sport.
This past year, London spearheaded a pilot program called Battle of the Boroughs. The interest was so strong, the Yonkers School District is now discussing how to implement what could be a first-of-its-kind breaking league.
It's the new lacrosse. 20 years ago, lacrosse was a new sport. Nobody heard of it. Now, you can get a Division I scholarship to play lacrosse.
Do you think that's the future for breaking?
Absolutely.
That's music to the ears and legs of breaking phenom Prince Isaiah from Queens. The 11-year-old, known as B-Boy Soul, competes in breaking tournaments all around the world.
Arizona, Canada, Europe.
The competitions typically feature one-on-one battles, like we'll see in the Olympics, with B-boys and B-girls facing off to impress a panel of judges.
We see where this is going. Again, it's in the Olympics now.
Ray Wilcox runs the nonprofit Yonkers Arts and recently created a breaking summer program with London leading the way.
What would you see in somebody like Soul where you know he's got something special?
Somebody that doesn't care how they look. They just let themselves loose. They're free.
That somebody clearly isn't me.
I'll be in the Olympics in no time. Woo, I'm ready for Paris. Let's go.
Well, now that it's going to be on this broad stage, I'm hoping this serves as a fire behind some of the interest and intrigue of these students from the schools.
At the end of the day, it was something that was created in the streets of New York by young kids, and now every country is going to compete. That is a blessing. This is something that needs to be celebrated, and I'm excited about that.
In Yonkers, Adam Cooperstein, News 4 New York.
There you go. So breaking in the Olympics, a little shouts to Ray Wilcox. London was, of course, on this show. We had London on a little ways back, and he was talking about the movement that they were having there in Yonkers. And, of course, we see this happening in locales all over the country. But we want to shout out our friends up in Yonkers who are doing it. Dr. Travis, we'll talk about the youth. We got like one more story to talk about. Well, what are your thoughts? I mean, as you know, using hip hop to connect with the youth or to give youth something to do or express themselves in all the different elemental ways is so important and underrated. And we know how important it is, but it's like the world we keep struggling to get them to know what's up.
I mean, I love the fact that breaking is getting the shine, and I'm glad that you were able to sort of point out both sides of the story. People that feel like for a bunch of reasons it's not authentic or traditional and things like that. But the reality is, for us and just people connected to hip hop culture, breaking does get lost. It just isn't a part of the conversation. And, I think back to, way back in the days, that was one of the things that drew me to the culture. Obviously, there was the music and the rhyme and all that kind of stuff. But the fact that you get to do the breaking, you know what I mean? It's a full body experience, and you get to connect to the music in a different kind of way. You get to create, you get to innovate. Now, I couldn't do any of the, I couldn't do half the stuff that they're doing and that they're competing on that level. But there's something about that full body experience of breaking that was, part and parcel of hip hop culture and what drew so many to it. And so, I think just being able to kind of rekindle the memory for a lot of people is so important. And maybe that will be the doorway for people to learn more about, what the pioneers of the culture feel is the most authentic. And we can get a closer look at some of the earlier iterations of the culture. And it's just so important. Not to take up too much time with it.
No, you're here for this.
And when I was doing my doctoral work, I was just kind of scratching the surface. I was mostly interested in positive youth development and youth organizing and all the different things that we do with young people to help them grow and thrive and be positive contributors to the communities that they're a part of. But two of the programs featured hip hop very prominently. And one of them had all the elements. It's a program out in LA called JUICE, Justice United and Creative Energy.
I know them. Yeah, I know those folks. I know Dawn and
Exactly.
Yeah.
Right. But so that by working with them, that opened my eyes back up to how big the breaking community still was.
Yeah.
And how global it was.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? There are a lot of assumptions that we make about like what groups comprise hip hop culture. And, it was a massive Asian community that was down with breaking and from young to older, the age, you're talking about for the children, you can see it reflected across the lifespan, but just a reverence for the culture, just an appreciation of breaking and the artistry and the complexity and the skill. So I love seeing it, and I just hoping that it gets to wake people up to the breadth of the culture and how rich breaking is.
Yeah, 100%. I've said this story before, but probably anyone listening might not have heard it. But I interviewed B-boy Frankie out of Queens some time ago for a different show. And one of the great things that he was telling me is, because he was super young when he started, and now he's, I don't know, at the time maybe in late 20s or 30. I don't remember how old he was, but so he'd been now becoming sort of a teacher and a mentor, and he'd been going on, and he goes on to different places and he teaches workshops. And he told me, he goes, I was in the Arctic somewhere, like just south of like the Arctic, like in northern Canada, in like a First Persons community, like a indigenous, out there in the sticks, right? And they brought him out there, and he's doing a workshop. And he's teaching, these folks that, knew about hip hop, maybe don't have certainly not everyday contact with it. So you say we're lost. I mean, they probably didn't see much of it all. I mean, there was YouTube and stuff. But so he tells me about this story, and I thought it was amazing that you can go to some, remote place and get a bunch of kids and teach this thing of ours, and they love it. And he goes, what's great about it is I'm not just teaching them to dance though. And he goes, and this happens everywhere, but this was particularly up there because you feel so removed from the rest of the world, I guess, was the idea. He goes, but I'm teaching them this sort of confidence, this self-confidence that you're able to do what I can do. And there's nothing separates us, even though I'm from New York and I'm a B-boy, and you're up here, and you might think that in your little community, you're not connected to the rest of the world. And I think that's part of why, hip hop in general, breaking, specifically, is so global, it's so universal. It's because it allows you to be connected to this vast network of people through art and culture that, you don't need equipment, you don't need you don't even need a ball like sports. At least you need a ball, bro. with breaking, with dancing, you just need your body. And it's just it's part of the beauty of the whole thing. It's really, mind-boggling when you think about it.
It is communicating with your body. Like you said, right? You think soccer is one of the easier sports, right? You need a ball.
Sure.
You don't even need a ball sometimes. You can get a big sock or something like that to play soccer with.
Right.
But breaking just you and the ground.
Yeah, and you know, shouts to the Issh Upchurch and Junior's Brick House and some of the other like hip hop dance folk that we've had on this show who really spell it out. If you like this idea and you want to explore it more, listen to some of the interviews I've done with them as well, because they talk about dance being liberating and dance being expressive and dance being freedom. You know, to put it, to use a term that's floating around a certain political campaign these days. Real quick, one more story I think I have. One more story I have real quick. It's not really a lot. I just wanted to mention it real quick. I noticed down here that there was a thing called the Rocket Foundation Summit. This has to do with Rocket Camp. This is Migos rapper Quavo, who has a foundation called Rocket Foundation. It's a summit they just had here in Atlanta at the Jimmy Carter Center. Just wanted to give props. It's designed to help diminish gun violence with young folk. It was a whole they have a summer camp program. So I'll read it real quick. It says the 2-hour event, the summit, was part of Rocket Camp, a 10-week summer youth program under the Grammy-nominated rapper nonprofit organization, the Rocket Foundation, which aims to prevent youth from becoming repeat offenders. Young men ages 13 to 18 were divided into 2 groups. Each group then received 10-minute breakout sessions on music business careers with executives from Quality Control Music, which is the label down here that made superstars of several Atlanta recording acts, including Migos, Lil Baby, and Lil Yachty. The speakers shared stories on their career paths, basically like the business side of the music business, so you can give some insight and say, hey, listen, you want to get into entertainment, that's cool, but this is the business side. Let me put you on the game. And then of course, just with the undertones of trying to give young people a alternatives, knowledge, hope that there are other things to do in life besides necessarily getting into the negative things that can track you down and bring in. So I just want to shout out. I don't like doing this very often. Like I said, I'm pretty journalistic minded. I don't like just shouting out foundations. I don't know what they do. I haven't checked their 990s. You know what I mean? But I do understand that this seemed legit. This seemed important, and I wanted to big up, just like we did last week when we talked about Megan Thee Stallion, who did a what was it? I have it here. Megan Thee Stallion did something for Houston because of the weather, the hurricane that came in, and she created a power program. She organized with one of her foundation called the Pete and Thomas Foundation, and she partnered with an organization called Bread of Life to launch an emergency power program, which helped provide generators and electricity to senior citizens in the Houston area. So again, I bet you if I go on any kind of media right now and I look up, Megan Thee Stallion, this won't be the first story that pops up. But we wanted to share these kind of stories about these artists that are, very popular and yet still do decent things for their community. Makes sense, right? We should do that. That, my friends and neighbors and supporters and haters, is something that I like to call hip-hop news that isn't about dumb shit. Once again, you can support this wonderful work if you feel so inclined. You can go to patreon.com/Manny Faces, and all of your money goes straight to my sneaker collection. I'm just kidding. That's not what happens. It's not what happens. That's not what happens. All this costs money, but also we're working on some things. We're working on some grants to help out people do some things. I can't tell you all the details. That requires time and effort. And again, to kind of put forth that effort, we need to be able to pay people that, can do these things. So it does go to a good source. It does let me keep doing the newsletter. The newsletter is free, but the equipment here costs money. The time costs money, and we're doing it for a good cause. So if you want to do that, you can. If not, please at least take the moment to thumbs up and share this video. Make sure you're subscribed. Make sure you have the bell for notifications, because last week I did a pop-up show on Wednesday night. You might have missed it if you weren't subscribed and you only come here Monday nights. So do that. Of course, the newsletter, once again, mannyfaces.substack.com. You see it right there on the bottom of the screen. I press a button and new words happen. It's very nice. That's free, and it does contain all. If you like this last segment and you were like, "Oh my God, I love hearing like news like this about hip hop," because all I hear is the blah 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 blah. Well, we deliver you the anti blah 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 at the Hip Hop Can Save America, the newsletter. So check that out. I got one. I'm working on one. I usually send them out every 2 weeks or so. Will probably come out later this week. Give or take. Also, a bunch of events we put in there, and I'll just run through a couple real quick, and then we'll get to chatting about. Oh, okay. Yeah, so if you see there, like some of these are passed already, but coming up, shouts to our friends they're in New Brunswick, but they'll be speaking about breaking in the Olympics, they'll be having an Olympics break and watch party in Newark, New Jersey at Red's Beer Garden. And they're our friends. We support. I won't put every local thing in the newsletter. It's not what it's here for. But they're friends, and also an Olympic watch party for breaking on August 10th is pretty dope. So check that out. You'll find that in the newsletter, and we see it on the bottom of the screen there. MannyFaces.substack.com. August 11th through 18th in New York is the Hip Hop Film Festival. August 19th to 22nd is not a hip hop related event, but it's Podcast Movement, which is a huge podcast conference. It's happening in Washington D.C. If you happen to be a podcaster and going to that conference, I'll be there. I'm actually doing a talk about what every podcaster can learn from 50 years of hip hop innovation. That's right. You can use the lessons learned by being a hip hop head to do podcasting better. And proof is that I also make podcasts and I won a bunch of awards. So either I'm a genius. Well, I am. But hip hop made me a genius. So hip hop can make you a genius too. And things like that. 24 Hours of Peace happening in Newark, New Jersey. In LA, the Grammy Museum has an exhibit that's going through September 4th. In Chattanooga in October is the Chattanooga Hip Hop Summit. So there's a lot of these things happening that we like to post in the newsletter. So once again, it's good stuff and you should check it out and sign up and get that. So that's that. Okay, deep breath. Like I said, tonight, Dr. Raphael Travis is here. We're talking, generally speaking, loosely, hip-hop being for the children. And as we talked about in the news section, we found a couple of cool things that are happening. Breaking can be good for the children, right? That's a great, we saw the great program happening in Yonkers Arts. We saw, even with RZA and the orchestra, last week we did a thing. I forget what city it was. One of the stories from last week was also ballet, interestingly enough, but it was sort of a hip hop meets ballet program that's happening somewhere. That's aimed at young people, kind of getting them to either, maybe you're from one world and now we're introducing you to the other, or vice versa. That's fun. That's interesting. That's exciting and creative. It's not the first thing that people think of when they think of hip hop, generally speaking, even us, even amongst the culture. They're not going to think of hip hop as being a way to improve the lives of children, young people. These are some of the reasons why we do this show and talk about these things, because y'all got to know, because I want your children to know about this. I want your children to know that, I want you to know that hip hop is a thing and that these programs exist out in the world, and that if you're not watching for them, if you're so jaded against what hip hop is these days, today's hip hop, shake my fist, then you're going to miss some of these things. So we're here to talk about that. And we're here to talk about one thing. And the link you gave me also ties in nicely. We'll talk about New Book Alert. But let's talk about one thing that we did, or that you did. I mean, I was just a small part this summer. Tell me, Dr. Travis, about the wonderful initiative now in its somethingth year, the STEM Beats summer camp program that you facilitated there. Give us a rundown of what it was and what it was about.
Well, first and foremost, I want to thank you again for setting the tone for the audience doesn't know, but you were invited in to really be a keynote welcome speaker to introduce the whole thing. So it was a month-long camp, once a week. And the last week was twice a week. We call it the STEM Beats Camp. And really this was to open the door to STEM thinking and STEM exploration for young people high school age. So yeah, from 9th to 12th grade. And the way that I see it is there are a lot of STEM initiatives, right? It's kind of a hot topic. It's been over the last 10, 20 years or so. And so we have a lot of like major STEM type companies, engineering companies, bringing people in and things like that. But the way that I see this summer experience is kind of that in between. So I don't want to necessarily have you go and become an engineering major as soon as you go into college. But what I want you to do is think of yourself as a scientist. Think of yourself as, familiar with, curious about technology. Think of yourself as having an engineering mind. Be curious about, how math basically underlies everything that we do, particularly as it relates to music as well. So we use hip hop culture as that lens to science, to technology, to engineering, to math. And because people love music so much, because people love hip hop, all the ways that we try to make those connections, it resonates because they're interested in it, right?
Yeah.
So it's really a great experience. And the other part that we try to do is introduce something new. So every year I'm thinking about what will be the new thing that we explore, try out, investigate. And, it's kind of like a buffet. And we try to expose them to as much as we can around STEM through that lens of hip hop. So like for this year, some of the new things that we did, AI has really sort of taken off over the last year compared to last year this time. So we did a section with Lupe's text effects, right? That partnership that he did with Google. So we brought that into one of the activities where we had them think about generating their own lyrics in general, but then what happens if you add this other layer? And then talking about large language models and the thing that underlies AI, right? So bringing all of that conversation. So it's as much learning as it is creating. We also introduced a haptic vest this year. So haptic devices are the type of, like, if you're a video game player and you think about the feedback on your remote control,
the vibrations and
right. So that's a haptic device. And so they have vests where you can feel the music. Timberland first introduced it way back. I can't remember exactly what the name of his product was, but that's sort of gone by the wayside. But there's some other folks that have kind of continued that technology. And so we introduced that. So you're feeling the music. And that's an area of research that I want to kind of move into. Most of the research around that is done with the deaf community, right? So
these are like these open up accessibility lanes. Yeah,
exactly. And so part of what I'm curious about from a research standpoint is, we know that people report it is being more immersive experiences with music. So all the things that I'm interested in terms of using music to promote empowerment, can it be enhanced with some of these haptic devices? We introduced podcasting, which is something that we hadn't done before, as a way of, thinking about evaluation. You have your typical focus groups and things like that, but we tried out, okay, what if we had them initiate a podcasting experience to talk about their experiences as opposed to us asking these questions, right?
Yeah.
Introducing them to learn how to work the board and how to facilitate and all those kinds of, social emotional kind of skills in addition to the other things, the technical functional skills. So, and we also, so each week we'd have a pop-up museum, right? So we focus on one of the themes each week. So first week was science, second week was technology, next week was engineering. And so within that, we'd introduce a bunch of things, but we also sort of featured a pop-up museum where they had these interactive exhibits that they could read, they could see images, they can learn. And so that's a way to introduce them to even more topics and more people that are involved in these different areas. But again, all through the lens of music, hip hop culture, technology, just an incredible experience. We had some great guest facilitators. Aside from yourself, we had Elliot Gann was our guest producer. So each year we have a guest producer. It's not as much focused on creating a song or music product like Mixtape Camp, which is another initiative that I collaborate with Ian Levy with. Yeah, so this one is more learning and well-being sprinkled in there. But we do have them create a beat and create a video to go with the beat. But it's not as much around lyrics, lyric creation. Although we did have that exercise, but we didn't bring it together to like create a song.
Yeah. It's just it's the rundown of activities is like, God, man, I went to camp and I just run around outside and then come inside and get juice and then go back outside. That was camp for me. I played a sport maybe. This would have been fun and exciting. I don't know the makeup of the this was all community, young people came from, local area. I don't know their makeup in terms of like how much access they might have had to, a lot of times we see these initiatives to, really supplement what maybe isn't there in schools. And maybe that's the case here. Generally speaking, you have to do it outside of school to kind of supplement what they might not have in terms of STEM oriented classes in the school. If that's the case, okay. And either way, what did you see as really eye-opening for young people? Like something that might have happened or something that they just never had thought of before or had access to?
For me, I think it's the freedom to explore. I think, so we have, just to help the listeners, so we have a full studio here in the School of Social Work at Texas State.
Yep.
And so it's a real studio with 6 stations. So every station has the computer, has the software, has a Ableton push, has a keyboard. We also have 2 DDJs at 2 of the stations, so full-size DDJ turntables. And so the point being is that people are often intimidated. Like, they come into this space.
Right.
This is not for me. Either I've never done this before. Only those type of people, not in a negative way, but like, I'm not a DJ. I'm not right. And so they're hesitant in general. And then people that are shy, it's kind of double. Right.
Right.
And so once you open the door, though, one of my favorite activities is an activity called clip jamming. And I got this from Alex Crook. He's a great colleague of mine. He's in Australia. But essentially, you're setting up the MIDI device so to trigger tracks or to trigger clips, so that if you set it up right, no matter what you pick, it's gonna sound good. Right, so you're picking your bass line, you're picking your kick, picking your snare, your melodies. If you set it up right, no matter what they pick, it's gonna sound good. But they don't know that. They're intimidated by it. And so what happens if you bring somebody, I've never done this before, I'm not a musician, and they come, and once if you do it collectively, it's even better because you get that community experience, right? Have everybody pick something. So you got 5 people and all of a sudden they created a song in 3 minutes, right? They're jamming, they're excited. And then if you have them, then, what I say, perform it, right? So you take the clips that they chose and then they could, maybe they just bring in the melody first and then they bring in the bass, right?
Right.
And so allow them to kind of perform it.
Right.
Add some effects, whatever.
Layering it,
all that kind of stuff.
Yep.
And in 10 minutes, like they've done more than they ever thought. And once you open that door, the confidence is there, the freedom, it just changes their idea of what's possible. And so then all of the different things that we're introducing, they're like, let's learn that, let's learn this, let's learn that.
Right.
And it opens the door. So the reason that I like it is because, and we've done other things like the mixtape camp, which is great, right? They come together, they make a song, and it's incredible outcomes. The reason I like this is because we're able to throw a lot at them, right? And expose them to lots of different things.
Yeah. And
so by the time they're done, my goal is that they can walk into any space with technology and things like that, and they feel 100% comfortable.
Yeah.
I've seen this, I've done that, I've explored, this is not for them. This is for me.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. I say, like, we look at the young folk and we know that they're natives, the digital natives. They could work a phone. You know what I mean? Like they could make videos that are like cinematic on their iPhones or Androids if you're like me and you're the better person. But so they're amazing at what they could do. However, that's not all the technology that exists in the world. That's not the technology that necessarily you're going to find in a workplace, or that you're going to find in a technical setting, or like a training setting. Or again, you might be really great, but if you want to get into music production, that is intimidating, or podcasting, or this kind of audio field, or any medical field that has medical technology. So what you're doing is, again, you're showing them the fun way that they can feel comfortable interacting with technology that isn't their phone.
Yeah.
Right. So all these parents say, I don't want them on the phone all the time. Okay, well, there's other technology-based things that they're going to like doing as well, and pick up on it because they are digitally natives and they are smart. You're going to say.
And we're talking to them about what's behind the scenes, like what is going on. So we're trying to give them that knowledge as well.
Right.
So you're doing this. So, okay, well, what is a MIDI device?
Right.
What is, it's moving from MIDI 1.0 to MIDI 2.0. What's the difference?
Right.
We're using text effects to use AI to enhance what we've created. Well, how does it know to do that? How does it know to feed us these ideas? Oh, large language model. What's a large language model? Right. So we're trying to do a little bit of both. That's why going too deep doesn't always help, because you lose the ability to kind of touch on some other stuff. So I feel like it's a great balance of experiential and that learning component.
Yeah, absolutely. A couple of questions. Oh, why is it not popping up? I thought it was popping up earlier. Dang it. I'll have to read it. It used to pop up on the screen on the other thing. I'll get it, guys. I know it worked on the other screen. I'll figure it out. Andrew Wang's asking, because Andrew Wang is again a music educator, and he's very tuned into this conversation. How long are you with the students every day? How long are these sessions? You said it was how many weeks and how much time per day?
Yeah, so we started out from 11 to 4 for each of the 5 days, once a week for a month.
Right.
But after the first week, it's kind of a funny story. In the second week, I got a call. It was like 9 o'clock, and one of our admins was like, "So your students are here?" And I was like, "It doesn't start till 11 o'clock." But apparently, from the parent dropped them off, and there was a student there. So was like, okay, well, I guess camp is starting now.
Right.
And so, and what that kind of brought up is, the realization that transportation is an issue for parents.
Right.
And so it's a lot easier for them to drop them off early so they can go to work. And then, as opposed to coming at 11 o'clock.
Makes sense.
So what we did is we introduced the idea of pre-camp. So from 9 to 11, people that wanted to come early could come early. So we essentially started at 9, and then after that second week, everybody loved it. So we did that for the rest of the camp.
Okay.
But essentially, it's a full day. Now, at the end of each year, we always talk with the students. What did you like? What didn't you like?
Right.
And one of the consistent things was they wanted more time. We explored some different iterations of like, what did they mean by that? And it sort of settled on what would be not too overwhelming, but better would be twice a week for the
I got it.
4 weeks. So, it's a little bit of a funding and bandwidth thing, whether or not we'll be able to do that. But for as much as we are trying to introduce them to and to give them a little bit more breathing room around some of the things that maybe they like a little bit more and they want to spend more time with, that is something that I'm definitely going to look into to see if that's the way we want to go next time.
Follow-up question. You just mentioned funding, and I got the thing back. Look, everyone, I got the thing back. Is this all through donations or fundraising? How is something like this funded? Obviously, there are folks who work in these, school districts and such. It's a great program. You're talking about a lot of funding necessary for this. How did y'all do it?
Yeah, this is part of a long-standing collaboration that we've had with the TRIO program. So we have, this is a federally funded program. They have several different ones. You may have heard of Upward Bound. You may have heard of Talent Search, used to be called Rural Talent Search. And so this has been a partnership with continued partnership with TRIO, and they've been really great. It's kind of the best of both worlds. It really meets the needs of a lot of what they're trying to do around STEM and bringing innovative, kind of evidence-informed work in STEM, but things that young people want to do. So they've been a really, really excellent collaborator.
Yeah, I mean, some people may or may not know. You may not. I do a PD, a whole professional development for K to 12, but it really functions a little bit better from like 7th to 12th. But whatever, I've done it in a couple of school districts, and it's basically hip hop can hack everything, and it's basically saying how do we incorporate hip hop into the STEAM classes, the ideas of hip hop being one of the most ingenious, inventive, ingenuity-filled social art form, cultural movements in history. Everything was born off of innovation in hip hop. From the very beginning, people say we made something from nothing. I like to say we made something from everything. And as the Grandmaster Caz quote, that hip hop didn't invent anything, but it reinvented everything. And reinvention is the mother of innovation. You know what I mean? Like that's where innovation comes from. What we're talking about here is you're talking about introducing kids to science, technology through music. What we talk about in this show all the time are these intersections that just spark interest and immediately from the giddy up, you're saying this is innovation. And hip hop's been littered with this, from Grandmaster Flash and the two turntables and Herc and them, from re-engineering the mixers, re-engineering the turntables, re-engineering the sound systems, taking the electricity from the pole, all the way through the idea, the mixtapes, how hip hop was propagated throughout the world through the use of this technology that it wasn't really designed to do. But then that came into the entire mixtape market, which upended the entire record industry, which then turned into streaming and P2P networks. And hip hop's been at the core of all of these technological advancements, through the beginning of time. So if you want to connect those dots and get anybody who's young to see that their culture, that the music and the culture that they love has actually been one of the most prolific, ways to change the world technologically since it started 50 plus years ago. This is the way to do it.
And I think consistently over time, as I've, talked about this innovation, that story of the turntable and turntables and mixing and scratching and sampling and is the thing that consistently captivates young people. And then to actually be able to go and mix on the DDJ and learn about cue points and things like that, learn about, wavelengths and see the visual wave file. That's the most consistently appealing, regardless. People are just fascinated by that evolution.
The loose theme for tonight is hip hop for the children, because again, what I like to fight against is the knee-jerk reaction when people, even us, even of the culture, even, people familiar with hip hop, love hip hop or grew up in hip hop, think that today's hip hop today doesn't have any of these, qualities, doesn't have any of these, because the knee-jerk reaction, and we're all guilty of this to some extent, is that when we think of hip hop, we simply think of like rap music that maybe is on the radio or whatever our kids might be listening to on TikTok or, at the moment. And while that's still the front-facing and most lucrative aspect of the culture, it's just that it's an aspect of the culture. And when you say you can get kids excited to learn how the music is made, the same way we got excited when we first, started messing around on a turntable or heard new sounds. Like, people always say, what's your moment? What's your song? when did you fall in love with hip hop? The eternal question. And it was My Melody by Rakim, because sonically, and like my dad was a jazz and blues guy and doo-wop, and I heard soul, and his 80s music, and like we were being bombarded with, we had sounds from every possible, era. But when that dropped, I'm like, this is something different. My mind was like, this is a different sound. And so what I wanted to see, then soon after that, I got a drum machine and I started DJing on my dad's turntable, which he did not like. You cannot do that. But I did it anyway. Because I wanted to learn how are they doing scratches like that? How are they making the beat patterns like that? I wanted to and it excited me. And if we think that today, because kids today wouldn't be similarly infatuated with the technological ways to make the music. And yes, granted, like there's a lot more access now. You can do, people got Fruity Loops in there. They got GarageBand. They got, but hands-on in a setting like this, it's just got to be so validating.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
And we've had the chance to talk in the past, like my wheelhouse, the thing that I love the most out of the culture, obviously I love it all.
Yeah.
But I really like lyrics. I like lyrical analysis. I like playing around with words and trying to make sense of, what is this saying about me? What's it saying about the world? And so that's like my sweet spot. But I love the rest of the culture, and it's so exciting that that young people can get just as fired up about it. Right. They want to go home and they want to practice it and they want to figure out, it is incredibly validating. And to your point, in helping people understand that the culture is big, there's so much to learn. And because of innovation, the technology is going to continue to grow. It's not stopping,
Yeah. And we got to, and as older folk, that's sort of our responsibility, is to remember that, I said this last week, this may be relevant. I was supposed to play it earlier. On this note, because we talked about another camp, that was facilitated by the college, UNC, did a summer beat, I forget what they called it. You'll see it in a second. And I made this point, and let's see if it plays. That's why I want to make sure that I know how to play things. Carolina Hip Hop Institute, same kind of deal. Summer school students dive into beats at the music department's Carolina Hip Hop Institute. They learn to make beats, rap, and DJ. What I love about this, and I talk to people that do this kind of work all the time, is there's a lot of people outside of the culture that might say, hey, who cares? Why are kids in summer school like doing rap and beats and stuff? And, it may seem like it's a frivolous activity or a waste of time, especially if you have a negative perception about hip hop and all the things that it offers to the world. But we who advocate and love hip hop music and culture know that the music and the culture offer so many things besides what you may attribute to it. So when I hear even our own folk, even our own hip hop heads talking so many terrible things about the culture, and I'm like, yeah, but this is happening too. And when you have a summer school where kids learn how to make beats, rap, and DJ, they do it. They're being instructed. They're being shown by the elders. So they're learning that respect for the elders, respect for the craft, respect for the old school. But also, we're not saying, hey, you got to do it like us. Show us what you got, young folk. Like, there's a mutual kind of thing here happening. And if that's not like a use of hip hop for the greater good, I don't know what is, because we always talk about this disconnect between generations and getting them to understand and respect and use it as a form of expression. And they're literally doing that all over the place. This is just a one of many that we talk about at the Carolina Hip Hop Institute at the University of North Carolina. So we wanted to shine light on that, because most people don't think these things exist. They only have this negative perception, and it's having kids being in a safe space, learning how to express themselves, learning how to interact with technology, learning how to interact with their cohorts. Like, oh, you make beats, oh, I rap, let's work together. Oh, we need an artist for the mixtape cover. And these summer camps are just invaluable. As I always say, every failed rap Every person who aspired to be a rap artist one day, myself included, couldn't be like Silent Night, who ends up being a recording artist and Raucous Records and puts out records and does songs with Inspector Deck and does all this great stuff. Well, we rap too. Like we just never got there. But what we did was we learned how to communicate better. We learned how to express ourselves better. We learned how to be a better public speaker. Maybe that helps us in our job or in our school, schooling or whatever. And that's what hip hop can do. Even if you don't become a star, even if you don't go out and make it in that business, these are transferable life skills. So when we see something like this, we big it up over here and we say, nah, whatever you or your peoples are thinking, there's a whole lot more to it than that.
Hip hop news that isn't about dumb shit.
So just to remind people, I think you heard most of that, right, Rap?
Yeah.
Just to remind people that it's up, like we can't sit back and say the young folk don't know about the culture if we're not taking the time to teach them about the culture and all the all the elements in it, and it's being done. So I would encourage folks, parents, elders, folks who love hip hop and are unsatisfied with the direction that it's gone. I mean, it's fair. Not a lot of places advertise it. It's hard to find some of these places. If only there was a guy who did a show and had a newsletter, and so maybe come my way. But until that day, we encourage folks to at least know that this stuff exists. At least know that the wonderful things that we know hip hop to have do exist, and folks like you, sir, are helping that continue. We see Andrew said that's why music teachers should go to STEAM conferences, and STEAM teachers should come to music conferences. We go to academic conferences all the time, and some of them are, like you've done social work, you've done that, and you're probably the only hip hop guy there sometimes, which is in one hand cool because then you get to be the expert, the thought leader, and all that stuff. But you're like, a lot of my hip hop ed or even artists should be at these conferences so that there could be more trading of these ideas. Yeah.
100%. And, the reality is, I'm envious of the hip hop ed community in regards because they are established. There are people doing different things like within our field. Like I said, I'm super into lyrics. I talk about the landscape of all the different things that people do because I want people to be aware of all those things. But really, your next week guest could be talking about DJing and, right, therapeutic uses of DJing, and then, beat making, and then graffiti, and, or even within lyrics, somebody specializes in Southern hip hop and right, therapy, you know what I mean? Like there should be all these different permutations of using the culture for learning and growth. But we're not quite there yet.
Right.
But I'm hoping that we get there.
Yeah, we're doing that work. And again, the point I made, which shouts to Chosen Hip Hop Prism in the building. Each generation and era views things a little differently, so you have to engage them in a way that's interesting to them. If you ask them, they will tell you. And we do this a lot here. But again, first timers, people coming across the show, just getting this gem, is that the key is that it's a two-way thing. Like I mentioned in the clip, that you're getting this. Not we're here to show you how to do hip hop. We're here to give you the background and give you, just how we saw it, but also what do you bring to the table? And now those two worlds come together. It's actually now something new and better. Just real quick, we often talk about the generation gap problem in hip hop and in life, right? These darn kids, we don't know how to communicate with them. We don't know how to talk to them. Just your work overall, but just thinking about the camp you put together, how much of a key is that to listen to the kids about their interpretation of the culture that we love and finding that common ground?
I spent a lot of time in that space, and kind of where I've settled on it is because there's so many different ways you can view it, but yeah, one of the ideas is thinking of it solely through a youth lens, right? This is a youth culture. I want to understand what they're listening to and all that, to the exclusion of other generations, right? I'm so attuned to what young people are doing that we sort of dismiss the other stuff. And what I try to do is, in the same way that I focus on what might be empowering as what might be risky, try to sort of balance those and explore both. I try to pair what I call classic to newer, something that's newer, right? Because what I'm most interested in is what is most empowering in the culture, right? So things that help us feel better, do better, be better, better connect and belong to the groups that we identify with, and better conditions for these communities that we care about. That's what I'm interested in pulling from hip hop content, whether it's songs or art or dance or whatever. And so that's what I'm introducing young people to, those themes of empowerment. And so I'll take something that maybe is classic and we'll explore those themes, and then we'll look at something that's newer and explore those themes. Or do you see that? Do you not? Like, what stands out to you?
Yeah.
Right. And so I try to do both of that, because I really feel like we are often missing out on the richness of, you do a lot of work with Summer in this idea of archiving, right?
Yeah.
And that's really the way that I view the culture, right? We have this enormous, rich archive of things that can help us heal individually and as a community, as well as thrive and grow and create and innovate. But it just gets thrown away, right? We just, it often feels disposable in the way that we treat previous generations of hip hop culture. And so I want to teach young people to be curious about anything that they're exposed to, but have the tools to explore themselves in the world, so that, and this is what I've really found, by doing that, there's a different appreciation for older content, right? Because they're not necessarily looking at it to jam to per se, but I try to pick stuff that's dope. But you know what I mean? But they're looking at it with, is this here? Oh, okay, I see
I recognize.
I recognize this. And it's something that is important in my life, right? So, I do care about how people cope when things get difficult, right? And so I feel like those parallel processes help a lot in kind of, Chuck D was the first person that I've talked about this for a while, and I heard it in an interview he mentioned a couple weeks ago, and he talked about there's like 10 generations of hip hop, and I've been saying this forever, and essentially every 5 years, right? So
it's not generation like the way we think of it, or it's accelerated.
Exactly. You connect with the content, the stuff that you loved in high school and maybe a little bit in early college, right? That's the stuff that gets people fired up. Right, across the board. Right. So you go to any group of people and put on songs that they jam to in high school and early college, or
there's been research. There's been research on this. They said legitimate, like your formative, music is going to be that age range across the board. I don't care what genre, who you are, where you live, what you're about.
Exactly. So this idea of hip hop, we need to think about in that way, right? So, of course, what I jam to, somebody else is not even just 10, 15 years younger than me is gonna, you know what I mean? There's some classics that endure, but the things that really touch you, that resonate, that make you move, that all the bells and whistles, like for my generation, with that Pete Rock in common, you hear the Pete Rock horns and the jazz stuff and the scratches.
It feels home.
Yeah, exactly.
Feels like home.
You know what I mean? And so everybody has that home. And I think that that's what we have failed to take advantage of, because these empowering messages, these are universal, and these are universal across music genres. But hip hop has a depth, a nuance, a descriptiveness, and a density to be able to describe and to reflect those emotions and those experiential realities in a way that's really unique and powerful. And if we were able to kind of really tap in each generation to some of those things, I think there's a lot of growth that is possible.
I hear that. And, first, thanks for saying things that I think I can say, and you just say them better. So thanks for being smart and stuff. As Chosen Hip Hop says, we call them eras of hip hop. There are these eras, we've talked, and then there's more than one possible golden era depending on who you're talking to. I've heard arguments for 2 different golden eras.
Which one you choosing? Which one? 88 or 92, 93?
I mean, but that's the thing. Like, I actually I would feel more inclined to say the 88 era, because that's obviously was my golden era. But I think that the 90s, 93, 94, like that kind of world was sort of that sweet spot. I think that's pretty universally agreed upon. But again, depends on who you talk to. But that's why these discussions have to be had. They are nuanced. There is no one answer. You alluded to it earlier. We're not even going to get into that. But even the origin story of hip hop has been, is something that there are multiple timelines, as my man Macau Amin would say, these sort of variants, off of the main timeline, using the Marvel analogies, or as I would say, like a tree and branches. We both kind of simultaneously came up with this idea and said, okay, there are these branches that come off of hip hop, and they all kind of come down, but even the trunk of a tree has roots, man, and it goes from different. It's so complicated, and you use the word nuance, and that's how I look at it. So I just want people to know, after hearing us talk and hearing the work you do, how important it is to not have a, for lack of a better term, black or white, cut and dry, this or that, A and B binary view of what hip hop is. Under no circumstances is that helpful to the advancement of the culture, to the preservation of the history of the culture. There are things that we may not like, but it's all part of that tapestry. And it's what we choose to do with it and what we choose to amplify and signal boost along the way, that as older folk, as elders, that's on us. That's on us. And this is, again, you're in a position to do it. Because you're in an academic facility and you can get funding and you can do these things. Parents, I always say, can, learn about hip hop ed, type stuff and go to the Board of Education and say, hey, do we have this in our school district? Because I've heard some things that this could be really instructive. Andrew Wang is in the school system, says sometimes he has to push against the push for these programs. He has to push up back against administrations that don't understand all this stuff. Okay, hell, if you work in public relations and want to spare a little of your time to help us craft publicity campaigns, like, PSAs for hip hop being, the ways that you could help save children or improve their standing in life, then donate your time as a PR executive. Like, there's things you could do, grown-ups, to help this cause. And so, like I said, this is one of the ways that you do it, is through this program. And of course the book, and just, the talking and just being a cool ass cat. I could talk to you all night, obviously, about this. I don't want to keep you up for too long. Tell folks right now, like, what you're working on now, what you got going on. And then, obviously, tell us about Hoodwink and then we'll let you get out of here.
Yeah, so right now we're kind of ramping up. I got a new book that will be coming out. Slightly a left turn, but not really. My main area that is of biggest interest to me is just positive youth development, regardless of whatever mechanisms that are in place to help promote positive development. That's what I'm about.
Sure.
And so I'm super excited about a project that I worked on with my good buddy, Paul Boxer, on the future of youth violence prevention. It's called a mixtape for practice, policy, and research.
Got it up on screen right now. Out of Rutgers. Big up Rutgers.
Yeah.
Yes.
So it's really funny. This has actually been sort of an idea that was hatched decades ago. We met way back in the days when we were still doing our doctoral work at what we used to call violence camp. It's not really violence camp, but it was,
that sounds like the camp I went to when I was talking before.
Yeah. It was a youth violence prevention fellowship that we had, and every year we meet up for a conference and things like that. So that's where we met. We both had just a huge passion for music, and so we've been in touch. He's a great researcher, does a lot on violence prevention. And we talked about this idea of the mixtape, what's great about, and there's different iterations or variations of what people call a mixtape. But in general, the idea of you creating as a DJ, if you're doing formal mixtapes or whatever, or as a person, essentially you're creating the best of, according to you, based on, you may have some old stuff, may have some new stuff. Thinking about hip hop mixtapes where you may have a classic beat where somebody's freestyling over it,
Right.
you know, or
Jacking
you
for
may have-
beats.
right. You
Yeah.
may have a fresh blend, you know, Ron G style, you know what I mean? But this idea where, you know, you bring together ideas, proven, innovative, well heard of and established, not so well heard
Right.
of. And a big part of, you know, as an editor, you're bringing together lots of voices. And so in many ways, an edited volume is an experiment in and of itself, right? We had some ideas about what we might get back, but we were, you know, you're not sure until you get back what you get back. But a big part of what we assumed was that, you know, when you pull together people that are doing all sorts of things, that there's likely going to be some common ingredients, right? So some underlying principles and ideas that cut across, whether you're talking about community gardening or hip hop based approach, or credible messengers, or a hospital violence prevention program, or, you know, for people that just got shot and trying to help them not retaliate, right? That if you pull all these things together, there's going to be some consistencies in what people feel are effective, beneficial, and things like that. And that's really what we wanted to do. And the idea was, okay, who would this be helpful for?
Right.
It's really helpful for anyone that is involved in a program that touches young people with the goal of preventing violent experiences. So that's kind of the way I talk about it. So even thinking about that term, preventing violent experiences, right? If you think of just youth violence prevention, people have stereotypes of, you know, getting guns off the street and things like that. But if you really think about, youth are exposed to violence in lots of different ways. So if you think about even you know, parental abuse and neglect, right? Or you're thinking about oppressive systems that are marginalizing young people and are assaults on their identity, right? Those are types of violent experiences. And so we really try to cut across the landscape of, you know, what people think when they think about youth violence prevention, cutting edge research. I mean, the people that are assembled, oh my goodness, this is like a dream team of people. We were both crossing our fingers that people would say yes to our invitation to be a part of this book. And it was just amazing, the response that we've got. Looking how many, so we've got 26 chapters. And I mean, who's who of people that are involved in this type of work. And so really excited. Comes out in December. Encourage you to check it out. There's 2 chapters in there that talk about hip hop. So I have a chapter in there.
Nice.
And Dr. Abdul Adil out of Chicago runs an incredible program. He talks about the evolution of the program and the work that they're doing, but just some really innovative and exciting things in here.
Very dope. Like I said, had up on the screen. The Future of Youth Violence Prevention is the name of the book. I will put the link in the chat as well, even though people who watch probably know how to use Google. But just in case, it's up there. Again, shouts to Rutgers University. We know my dad went to Rutgers. My dad got his PhD from Rutgers. It's the only college that I claim because I didn't go to college, but he went to Rutgers, so I kind of can claim. I did go to a business program there. It wasn't college, but it was like a community when I lived in Newark for a few years. So I claim Rutgers, so I like Rutgers. So yay to them for doing this, and yay to you for putting this out. Looks fantastic. It's something that I think, like you said, anyone who's charged with the care of young people could benefit from something like this. You know, we talked to some folks. It's a great subfield or whatever you want to call it. Subgenre. Let's stick with the musical analogies. You know, we've talked to folks like Mark Katz, who does Next Level, you know, and their hip hop as culture transformation, conflict transformation. As opposed to conflict resolution. Like there's a whole thing about, like, you know, you're never going to resolve, you got to transform it into something else, which obviously sits at the heart of hip hop. And so the idea that that hip hop has these unique characteristics that can be applied in these ways and be explored. That's they kind of international, but youth are youth, right? So I think that it's a beautiful thing to focus on, and I applaud you again for just just doing all the good work, man.
I appreciate it, man. And again, much respect to you for this platform. There really aren't places that we can talk about this stuff with an appreciation, not to get a quick sound bite or to try to fit everything in, 2 minutes of conversation. You've really opened the doors to have thoughtful, meaningful conversations about this type of work. And really, like we were talking earlier, to really try to create possibilities for people to branch off and do their own thing in these areas, you know?
Yeah, that's the idea. And like I said, y'all inspire me. So anything you see me do, it's because I've come across folks like you. And, we obviously come from the same neck of the woods, but you were someone I found very early. Obviously, The Healing Power of Hip Hop is such a seminal book. And when you find that people are using this thing of ours to, literally save lives, literally improve, lives, livelihoods, and communities, and especially, and most importantly, communities that have been traditionally, underserved and under-resourced and underloved from, the rest of society. It's just such an important, it's the mission. It's the work, as Emdin would say, it's the work. This is the work. But this is the work. This is the mission. And so I appreciate your work very much. Once again, folks, you see him IG at RapTJR. On Instagram, and of course you're on Discord. You got a great Discord that's popping, and you share a lot of mixes, and you do mixtapes yourself. Tell people where to go for that, and then we'll cut you loose.
Yeah, so I do mixtapes under DJ Hoodwink. You can find those on Mixcloud. The most recent dropped probably about a month and a half ago. And so I try to get those out. And it speaks to a lot of what you talk about, Manny. The goal of that is only new music. So when I do those mixes, it's current music. And that's a big part of it, is to help people understand there's always dope music dropping.
Yeah.
Always, every week. And so it's part exercise to try to filter out, like, what is the thing that resonates with me sonically? What is the things that has a lot of those messages that I think are important when we think about that self-reflection and self-awareness and self-help? And if we are therapists or counselors, what are some content we might want to use in our work with young people to explore these topics? So that's what those mixtapes are about.
Right. And that's super valuable. Just to jump in, I know, Andrew, we've talked also about, having to work with other, maybe not school, but school adjacent. We do it for the culture, these organizations, and they're always looking for music because they want to play music that reflects these things. And sometimes, like, we're not that tuned in. So these are valuable resources, to be able to say, hey, here's some new music. Kids are going to recognize the artist, so kids are going to recognize the vibe. And it's not, not everything is crap, people. So thank you. It's super valuable. Super valuable. Yeah.
And at the end of the year, I do my top 100. So I, narrow it down. So and that's something for people, in the audience, if they want to kind of look back. I've been doing this for 4 or 5 years. And so there's volumes of content that you can check out and explore.
I got the link in the chat, and I'm just like scrolling through your catalog now, sir. Again, like all these things that you write all these books, you do all these things. You have 97 mixtapes. I have one mixtape, and I still haven't done the book. So anyway, we're getting there. We're getting there.
We crowdsource our support of the culture. So
it's all everyone gets in where they fit in.
Mix, my mix is your mix. My book is your book.
It's all good. It's all good. Quiet as kept. I haven't made anything officially noticed, but there is a book coming, and it'll be here.
Hey,
so
all right.
And it's official. I didn't just draw it on a napkin. So anyway, we'll talk about that later. Listen, Rap, I'm so glad that I know you and that you came back and told us. It's just an honor to be involved in your initiatives. It's an honor to just know you and talk to you. And anything you do that I can amplify, the door is always open. And let's see what happens. And hopefully, I'm sure you'll do one again next year. I'm sure the camp is going to be live and direct. And also, thanks for talking about it, because you know what? I think what I would encourage is folks in other institutions to say, look at the blueprint, hit you up. I'm sure you'd be like, no, this is what we did, man. This is how we made it work. Like, you can do this sort of thing over by you. And, that's something I always think about, like maybe taking like some of the stuff that, you and our friends elsewhere do and maybe, finding a way to, do it somewhere else and replicate it or, branch out, like you say, branch it out and do our own thing. So thank you for sharing the blueprint. That's, we don't gatekeep around here. We share the information. It's each one teach one, in the hip hop, Constitution.
Lexicon.
Yeah. Yeah. The Constitution, the commandments.
Yeah.
So thanks again, man. Anything else? Or are we good?
No, man. As always, brother, appreciate you and your work. Thanks for the invitation. Strong Island, continue to represent.
That's right.
And our Knicks, man. Our Knicks.
Come on now.
We're going to shock the world.
It's going to be a good year, man. I got to see what happens with the center situation, but I think we'll be all right. We got some Knicks fans in the building. I'm wearing I got the Giants on today, but I'm usually Knicks or Yankees out. But Knicks all day, baby. Let's go.
Right.
Thank you, my friend.
All
right, brother.
Peace.
We'll talk soon.
All right.
Once again, the great Dr. Raphael Travis, friend and colleague. I'm very humbled to say colleague. We've worked together on some things. Again, this is just great work they do. Again, the loose theme for the show was hip hop is for the children. And if you come across this, if you've been watching live, you probably know, you're probably a regular, you already kind of get it. And I appreciate y'all for coming and rocking with me every week. Once again, thumbs up, give me a like, make sure you're subscribed. You can share it. As you know, I'll rip out the Travis interview. We'll put up as a separate interview in a day or so. Make sure you go and check that out as well. Just, like it, comment, help out for the, whatchamacallit. So anyway, we're going to get out of here. This was fantastic. Most of the technical difficulties resolved themselves. Thanks again to Andrew Wang. Shouts to PRism, Chosen Hip Hop in the building. Another great organization that you should follow and support in any way that you can. Bob Knutson, very lastly, earlier why don't I have the chat box in every scene? You saw I corrected it on the fly, but I don't know why the chat box is not in every scene. It should be in every freaking scene. All right. I'll figure it out later. Anyway, thanks to Bob Knutson, who said earlier when he thought of hip hop, he said, try to find it now. I don't know. Weird. Anyway, he says hip hop is for children, to me means meeting people where they are to have the best educational outcomes. And Andrew Wang says hip hop is creating a culture and community and basically brings the children together. And those are great notes to end on. If you think that hip hop is only represents your view of what you see as negative or just not to your liking, just please understand that there are hundreds of people that are out there doing work with hip hop that uniquely and compellingly are able to help uplift the lives of your children. And it is up to you as a parent or an elder or a business owner or a nonprofit or a funder to find the people or the people who tell you about the people. Because, come on, we can make it happen, right? I need help. And support them. Because without that, hip hop will continue to devolve and it will continue to just turn into this, commercialized. It'll eat itself, right? It'll eat its young. But we know, and again, that's why I'm doing this show. This is the work, is to tell people and whoever's watching and however many people I can get to listen that we have ways to do this. I bring them to you. Then you could find out more and follow their lead and then bring those ideas and concepts and programs and initiatives all up into your own mix in whatever way you can. So that's my job. Hope I did it well. Hope I did it for y'all tonight. I appreciate y'all checking me out either live or on the replay. You can become a member and help sustain this effort at patreon.com/Manny Faces. You see it right down here. Greatly appreciated if you do that. If not, no problem. Free newsletter will give you more of this type of content. mannyfaces.substack.com. Once again, I shouted out Chosen Hip Hop, who says Oh, see, now I put it in twice. All right, we're working it out together, family. All right. Children having opportunities to satisfy every need. That's their slogan. Chosen hip hop. Children having opportunities to satisfy every need. Every need that your child has, whether it be social and emotional or educational or artistic or linguistic or self-help or community or collaborating or constituency. You want to teach your kids to be better civic-minded young people. All of this can happen through hip-hop. We'll show you how. If you don't know how, me, my friends, we'll show you how. So stick around. Come back next week. We'll be back Monday, 9 p.m. I probably won't do a pop-up this week. That was a nice experiment last week, but the only way you'll know is if you have notifications turned on. Yeah, and I don't have an outro screen. So I have a new intro. If you missed it, you run it back. Go play back the beginning because the intro was chef's kiss. Once I got it going, it was all kerflunked in the beginning. So, you'll see it. We worked it out. Now I know how to do it. So next week, because remember, last week I didn't have an intro screen. Now I have an intro screen, and I messed up. But it worked. So now I know how to make it work. And I got the things on the screen with the chats, right? Andrew Wang said Nova Knicks, right? We Knicks fans over here. So, yeah, man, it's me, Manny Faces. It's you, whoever's watching. Thank you very much. I appreciate y'all. You always uplift my spirits. I had a bad day, and coming here and doing the show makes it a better day. So thank you for being here, and we'll see you soon.